a grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on,
Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Kick away, so yeah. How are you all doing, folks? A little bit strange today. We have no leader. We'll have to send get well wishes to Anthony, who's just recuperating this moment. He had a small bit of a knockout.
A bit of a knockout.
We want to send our best wishes to him. Everything's going to be fine. He just needs a couple of days. So myself and Marco have tried to put on his shoes and they don't work. So we're here today and we're going to wear one each. One's too big and one's too small. We'll let you work that one out. But we're in the bowels of Páirc Uí Chaoimh and I'm in the company of greatness, right sandwiched between two Cork greats. So delighted to be welcomed by Shani and Marco. And as I said from the outset, we're going to try and make a stab at looking after Dalo's job. So best wishes, Dalo. Anyway, we'll kick it off. Marco, let's kick straight to the point. You told me that Ole wouldn't be sacked.
Oh Jesus, you're throwing in the dirty mucky ball early, TJ. Fair play to you. Yeah. Oh Jesus, yeah. Sure, I suppose it got to a stage where they just couldn't take them any longer or any further, could they?
Yeah, yesterday's result probably
My
just
God.
put the tin hat in.
Yeah. Should look. I suppose for a club like United, TJ, like, you know what I mean, a really big club, like, a national club, like, or a international club, I suppose. We'll be looking for a new manager now, and just talks about Zidane, whether he would take it or not, I don't know, but I think it's disappointing, like, I just, for United, like, I'm laughing at Roy Keane for the last couple of months, and I'd be a big Keane fan now, to be fair. Jeez, the stick he's given the players is unreal, like, and he, like myself, would have said, no way, Solskjaer wouldn't go, like, and he also did make up the point. He said that the players would throw him under the bus at some stage, like, and that's exactly what has happened. So I'm disappointed that he's gone, to be honest with you, because maybe the players just aren't good enough, like, and that's. But it just proves that United, at the end of the day, they want success, and if you're not in the top three, that's it, out the door. Good luck, no matter who you are or what. But I thought the fact that he was their own, that he was a homebred coach, a manager, that he wouldn't get the bullet. But where does it leave Ferguson now? Because Ferguson would have been the person that would have been squarely behind him all along, like, so just proves it.
Johnny, you're on the same side of the fence as me, Liverpool man.
Gutted he's gone, TJ.
Couldn't have been more with Landers. Yeah, I think every Liverpool supporter is the same way. Yeah.
Look, I suppose that's sport, that's the way it's gone, and I think we've touched on even the hurling and the GAA, it's kind of going that way, like this teams expect success and want success.
We're obviously doing the live streaming of the county final in Cork, and I met one of the Gart lads that told me that Matty Murphy got the bullet in Gart, I think 2015. Now he's back last year and this year, and has gotten back to the semi-final this year, but he said like that there was a heave against them from the players in 2015. So just it's kind of gone that way, hasn't it, really? Like, if the success doesn't follow, who did they shoot? Oh, the manager. It has to be the manager's wrong. Like when will the players put up their hands and say, like, maybe we're not committed half enough, maybe we're not doing enough training, maybe we're not minding ourselves off the field, like, always seems to be the gaffer that gets the bullet, like, So.
I suppose we'll cut to the chase, Shani. Huge weekend of action in Cork across 2 days, loads of finals. My first Little All-Ireland. Tell us about the Little All-Ireland, Shani. Where does that come from?
I suppose traditionally, TJ, it was a county final played after maybe Cork had won an All-Ireland, say. So Cork might have been All-Ireland champions from, we'll pick a year 76, and a couple of weeks later then you might have had the county final coming on, or the county championship starting, or maybe mid-championship, So traditionally you'd have had a first, second round game played, then the summer championship would have happened into county, so you could have fellas playing an All-Ireland final, and then 2 weeks later going in, or the week after, to play a quarter final, for instance. So I think it probably came from that, where Cork traditionally had been regularly contesting All-Ireland finals. They went back to playing their county stuff, and it just came, I suppose, from that. I'm only surmising myself, I'm not exactly sure what the background is.
It is a little All-Ireland, like, and 'tis in Cork, and That's the way we have it now. And she just was great that you made the trip down from Limerick today, like, you know.
And I have to say, Mark, it didn't disappoint. Really well looked after by everybody. 2 great games of hurling, 2 enjoyable games of hurling, played in the right manner and the right spirit.
Yeah.
2 good winners, and we'll touch on them in a sec. But overall, and in fairness, the facility here now, Marco, is...
It's fantastic.
I know he spent a few quid, but...
We spent a bit more than a few quid, and some of it... We found a few quid as well in a couple of accounts there recently, but
money well spent now, you'd have to say.
It is, and I was actually talking off camera with Jock Cunningham today, like, you know, that this stadium is going to see us out, like, do you know what I mean? So it's, in fairness to the board, when they made the decision to do the redevelopment of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, they made the right job of it, like, you know, and all we need now is a couple of Ed Sheeran tickets and a couple of Gareth Brook tickets for Crow Park. So anyone out there who has access to the tickets, contact Dalo.
Yeah. Okay. But first we'll go to the main act first, and the Glen and Midleton. 2 teams rich in culture and history, good final set up, and in fairness, overall it didn't disappoint.
It was a good game, wasn't it? Yeah, in fairness, it was close. The Glen probably, like Midleton did all the hurling, and you would say were deserved winners. In fairness, the Glen kind of showed a thickness, a toughness, and just kind of weathered the storm, hung in there, got a goal completely against the run of play. It might have been 15-6 or something at the time. Then all of a sudden, bang, it becomes from 9 to a 6-point game. They followed up with the next score and probably went in. Was it at half time? Was it 3 points?
4, I think.
16-1-9 at half time.
16-1-9, 4 points in it.
Giving themselves a good chance.
And then Midleton, did they start the half?
No, the third quarter was Glen won, I think, 7 points to 4, and back to a point.
Then Midleton came again in the last quarter. So it was a game that ebbed and flowed. But at the same time, it just had a feeling that Midleton's name was on it all. Their name was on the trophy all day. Like Lehan was buzzing, Tommy O'Connell was playing excellent, Kiefer Smith was very, very good. And like you just felt that fellas like Cormac Bazang and Luca Farrell, if they got enough ball, they'd open up, and as that second half went on, that's exactly what happened. But credit to the Glen, they're in there, and we're in the game right to the end.
Right to the end, yeah. And Mackie, for Midleton, there's 6 forwards scored from play, and when you're going into a county final, or it's a championship game that needs to be won, you want your forwards. Like, and on the day, as a unit, they were impressive.
They were, in fairness. And look, I suppose all the analysts would have said in advance of the match, TJ, that Conor Lehan, Cormac Bazang, who's had a fantastic season, probably didn't have a brilliant final by his standards this year, and Luke Farrell, they were the 3 main forwards that were going to do the bulk of the scoring. But up pops Ross O'Regan with 4 points, Per White with 2 points, and Sean O'Mara with 2 points as well. Like 8 points from play from the 3 boys. No, that's what you call a team effort, to be fair, like, you know. And that to me was probably the winning and the losing of the game, TJ, because those, like Conor, once Conor turned up and played well, he was always going to get a lot of scores. And he got 5 points in play all in the first half, and I think he got about 7 or 8 points in frees. He was excellent right through, and you knew he was going to get that. The same as Patrick Horgan was always going to get maybe 1-7, 1-8. You know, that's what he was going to get at least. So, but when you pop up with those 3 kind of unheralded players and get 8 points between them, I thought that was a fantastic return from those lads, like, you know. But the overall game, you know, Midleton looked like they were going to take off and go and win easy. And then the Glen got the goal, and Shawnee said, next one, geez, the game is on again. And next one, last quarter, 1 point in it. It's like, could the Glen get back into it? I suppose I thought the first 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, the first Midleton got 3 points there. They pushed it out to 4 points, and they kind of always had that cushion then to kind of see them out to the line. Like, but you know, when the ball fell to Doris with the last puck of the game, and oh Jesus, double and a win wide. Like, would it have been an amazing recovery from the Glen to get a result out of the game, but it could have happened.
Credit to them. Shani, Conor Lehan.
Yeah.
13 points in the day, 5 from play, and I suppose that score that actually Ross O'Regan got when Conor just flicked it back over his head, and when you do those things, it's your day, isn't it?
Yeah, and you'll know as well as a Limerick man, TJ, even as a defender, I know you played everywhere, forwards, defence, midfield, you played everywhere, boy. Like if you saw Lehan coming in as well as a defender, like on his day, that guy is exceptional. We had him a minor. We actually had him in 2010 as a minor. John Constantine was the manager. We played tip down here. It was a cracker. Went extra time, we beat him. And coming back after, we go for a pint and a bit of crack and a bit of a chat. And even in the group, we were kind of saying, Lehan was kind of quiet tonight. He got 7 from play. Like, he's a scoring machine. He can still kind of go through games, and you like that night. No, we said, yeah, he was busy, he was okay, but he's a scoring machine, and like that for me is always kind of being part of his game. Say, like, some fellas are hard-working forwards, get their couple of scores, but on his daily hand can chalk up some massive scores. We played here in the 2014 Munster final a while ago, 4 from play. Second half, the 2013 All-Ireland final, came out, goal straight away against Clare, rocket of a goal. Like, his scoring averages are high. He's probably, even into county, in between that 3 or 4 point average. And for club stuff, I had a quick look. I did a bit of a money ball before the game just to see how could this game be won and lost. Like, he's up to with Páirc in that as a club goal scoring forward. He's 20 odd goals scored in club championship stuff. Like, so he's an incredible player. Yes, he'll probably admit maybe lost his way a little bit. Did he? For me, no. Did he lose it enough to be dropped off a panel? I couldn't agree with that. But because I think he's just in that enigma type player that if you get him right, he can do exceptional things. And I think Ben, maybe just this year, has looked at other aspects of his play. I think what he did this year that I haven't seen before is he's thrown the ball around an awful lot more. Winning ball, and in the past maybe he was shooting on side. Today, he created a couple of scores by giving a pass and then looking for the pop pass back. A lot of assist stuff. Yeah, as you mentioned, even the over the head stuff, which led to Ross O'Regan. So his game has gone on to another little dimension. He's still only 29. He was a minor in 10, 18 and 29, 30 next year. I think there's plenty of life in that fella yet.
For him personally, Shani, like, with the disappointment of obviously being released from the panel, to go back and have that kind of a season with your club and captain Midleton to today, but that's huge. Like. It's
huge, and like, some fellas get classed or tagged as being this and that, flaky. Like, even emotionally today, he nearly started crying in the speech on the field. You know, emotionally, I think it meant an awful lot. There was maybe a little bit of baggage or pent up frustration, and it probably came out in his speech. So obviously he's someone that loves the game and feels for it, and I was delighted for him.
The one thing for me, Shani, is that when he came up and he did an interview with Martin Morris afterwards, that I've never seen the man looking as fit in my life.
Yeah,
he was lean, his face was gaunt, and you could see the shoulders out through the jersey, like, you know. I thought he looked really, really fit as well, like, you know. And like, you know, we would have discussed it in the pod already, TJ, right, whether he'd deserve a call back or whether he'd be a 20-minute man or a 15-minute. Look, I think that's a conversation for Kieran Kingston. Should have a conversation with him, like, you know. And
I think so. And even from the outside, you could argue maybe, Shani, any given day, is he on the first 15? You could. That's an argument that we could all have.
Yeah.
But I think, is he on the first 30? I think there's a given, like, isn't it?
I think so. I suppose what do? You as a manager of Cork and a selection committee, you sit down, you look at what happened at minor under 21, who's coming out for minors eligible, who played well for the 20 months, and of course the club championship. Now the club championship at times can be a tiny bit false because some fellas have the ability to do great stuff in the club scene and struggle at the inter-county scene. But when you have a player that has over a period of time really excelled for Cork, maybe tapered off a little bit in the last year or two, but has excelled in massive games, and then has had a club championship like he's had, I definitely think he catapulted himself over the last couple of weeks, and particularly today, back into the frame.
Yeah, forwards very good. And Matt, let's touch on Tommy O'Connell for a second. Kind of a new venture as such, maybe back into that centre-back position, but certainly been very impressive in the last couple of games, and no different today.
No, he was very good again today. No, he's continued his form, TJ, which is the big thing for me, and it's consistency of performance. If you're looking for inter-county fellas, you want to know they're consistent, and he has been really, really consistent. His striking is excellent, and you know what? He's a kind of a, would you call him a defender now? I don't know what you would call him yet. But what I did see from him all season is that he delivers a great quality ball into the forwards, and I thought he's toughened up a fair bit. He got a fair few belts today, and only got a fair few belts in the Blackrock game as well, because they're a very physical team. But when you're going against Intercounty in your own crowd, like TG, you're probably the most physical team around at the moment. So, like, if a fella if he's going to be good enough for the inter-county scene, he's got to be able to do it at club level, and he has done it now. And I'd be hoping that, you know, when Midleton go out into the Munster campaign now, that they will give a good rattle in the Munster campaign, like, you know.
Yeah, they play Kilmallock away, which is, I believe in the Gaelic ground, is going to be on December the 12th.
Yeah.
But maybe before we touch on the Munster club, Shine, let's touch on the Glen, obviously, for the moment. Another disappointing day. Tough to lose 3 in a row.
Yeah, and I suppose over an 11-year period, TJ, like, we went through torture stuff, really. Like, we went from 89 to 2015 without winning a county. But we're always thereabouts, competitive in a way, got to a semi-final and got to a final in 2010. So if you chart that 11-year window from 10 to 11, we've played in 7 county finals, which is a brilliant return. Made up of a backbone of Patrick Horgan, Conor Doris, Carl Hickey, Steve MacDonald, so they've been stalwarts for the Glen over the last 11, 12 years. Like, to win 2 out of 7, isn't a super return, but even just earlier, Colin was asking about how will the Glen regroup and how will they recover. They'll recover fine. What else can you do? You just got to dust yourself down and go again. Like, say, at underage level outside, there's great work. Tony Wall and Mark Kennefick are doing incredible work at underage level. We won a minor county against Bridge Rovers a couple of weeks ago. It was a brilliant final. And we've an under 18 competition coming up now next week against Blackrock, I think, is in that competition, and our 16s are playing. So I suppose no different to Gary's plan. Get to a certain stage, fellas are aging a bit, then you've got to look at the next generation, what our 18s like, what our 21s like. So in fairness to the boys in the Den over the last decade, they put massive emphasis on the underage stuff. So I'd have no fear. You just dust yourself down and go again.
Yeah, and Hoggy very good again, in fairness. Limited supply early doors, but in fairness he's dragging them back in. Unbelievable from place balls, gets a great goal.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, even from your point of view and the Glen's point of view, you'd imagine that second water break where you get it back to a point.
Yeah.
Simon Kennefick's in the game in a big way. You're probably feeling this is here.
Big time. And it's exactly what the Glen want. They want to battle, they want to fight. I mean, it couldn't have gone better for the Glen in some regards, because Midleton had all to play, coasting at 8 or 9, and then coming down the stretch there's a point in it. You'd say, this is, personally I thought this is exactly where we want. And credit where credit is due. Fellas stood up then, mentioned them earlier. Farrell got himself into the game with a little point. He could have got a little goal, and he checked himself, slipped it over. Bazan came into the game, and then Lehan again was accurate from his frees. No, Midleton had a lot of wides, and if the Glen had levelled, they'd have only had themselves to blame, because there's loads of examples where you would have said, go on, a fella was going on a solo run, he shot early, he shot on sight a little bit.
The Cormac Bazan one for me was just 3 points up, 62 minutes on the clock, open space, keep going. And listen, we know, like you saw him in the after bundles against the Rockies, against the fullback. Once he got past Nadwell, he was gone. I just thought he should have, on Arbrook I should say, I thought he should have just kept going, and just tapped the ball over the bar. 4 points, game is over. It allowed the Glen that one opportunity that they did get.
Did get, in fairness. And they had a great goal chance as well on 44 minutes, and you'd have to credit maybe Steve MacDonald.
He made an interception
which definitely kept him in the game as well.
Definitely. And Cahill Hickey made a great save as well. And I said that was the second half as well. So there was a couple of goal opportunities.
4 points to 2 only in that last quarter, which was considering how high class a game it was.
Yeah.
It was low scoring.
Yeah.
Midleton, they just probably looked like they were going to kick on, and in fairness to the Glen, just hung in there, but just on the day.
Yeah, I think to give credit to Midleton as well, say there was the Glen were starting to get a little bit out of the Midleton half back line. So I thought Luke Horgan was coming into the game a little bit. Mark Dooley started to win a few puck outs. But for a young lad, Kieran Smith, for his first year, he's still playing hard? Is he hard? He's 18 years of age.
Yeah.
Just he turned it out with loads of ball.
Yeah.
Under ferocious pressure.
That's
Luke
right,
Deneen the same. So in fairness, while they had lost their way a little bit in attack and had some aimless strikes that ended up going wide, I thought their defence totally turned it into it, none more so than Tommy O'Connell.
Yeah.
And Tommy, as a fella that had been tagged as a bit of a loose kind of defender, I thought his defence today was really, really good. He was on different players. Dean Brosnan, who's taller than him. Luke went in on him for a while. Dooley went in. I thought he had
Downey late in the game went up centre forward, Yeah.
And Mark, let's talk about maybe Midleton's management team for a sec. Jeff Fitzgerald, obviously, that was manager. Ben O'Connor now winning another title, so coach. You would be predicting a nice future ahead for Ben.
I would, I'd
nice
say.
brand of hurling today.
Oh, yeah.
And as Shai touched on, definitely getting the best of the land as well, which is a great sign of a coach. If he's improving the player, improving the team.
Absolutely. So I suppose a couple of things for me, they moved Cormac Walsh out of the forwards back to the half-back line. Moved Tommy O'Connell, known as a midfielder, stroke forward, back into the half-back line. Luke Deneen wasn't on the team last year, has become a pivotal player for them. Has marked the best player kind of in the opposition's team all along. It was significant to think today that he was given the responsibility to mark Páirc Horgan, and the Glen set up with a 2-man inside line. So now you're saying, Jesus, Luke going to be quick enough to mark Páirc Horgan? So I thought that Ben showed, and Geoff Fitzgerald and the manager, and Terence McCarthy, to give him a mention now. Terence has been there for a long time with that Midleton team now, in fairness, and it's a great testament to Terence.
Well, it's just showed confidence in their defenders, isn't it?
Big time, yeah. But I suppose, Kiefer Smith is his younger brother Shaney Smith, right? He'd have been involved in development squads, and as a tough one that the younger brother comes in and takes your position, maybe, or takes one of the positions in the backs. But I suppose overall, hats off to the Midleton management, but I suppose in particular they went outside the club for the first time ever. That was a big decision for a club like Midleton to go outside and pick up an outside coach, and like Ben O'Connor has done a wonderful job. Obviously, you know, the fact that you win a county and now following in the footsteps of his father Burnley before him, now having won a county, like, you know, so he got a very short spell last year, I suppose, with COVID and stuff like that, so there were question marks, like, you know, or the outside man and Ben and blah blah blah, but like they got their full season this year now and he's delivered in spades, and whereby we would have seen him against SARS. They were poor that night, like, but they toughed it out against Aaron's Own. I think that Aaron's Own game might have made them, because local derby, but they had to go for the full 60 minutes. They had to eke out the result, and the boys at Aaron's Own had Kieran Murphy sent off as well, like, so they would have been expected to win it, but it got tighter and tighter, so they eked it out, but they hurled outstanding against Blackrock. And I thought the first half today, 16 points, 14 from play, that's a massive performance from any team for half an hour. The question is now, can they add, you know, can they move that performance of the first half out for two halves? I suppose is the big thing. They certainly were flat in the third quarter today, but, you know, still in the championship. They have 3 weeks now to a Munster semi-final. That's brilliant, because it gives them an opportunity to celebrate, enjoy the victory, because, you know, people probably don't enjoy them enough, but then mind themselves as well at the same time. But like, it's hard work winning any championship, as you know. Do you know what I mean? Brilliant days. Niall Maxwell lifting, I'd say. The club will be lifting tonight, but I said Niall Maxwell getting a good call in tomorrow, I'd say.
And Shani, a good championship in general, 13,500 plus here today, which is brilliant. Super atmosphere, play something great. Overall, good championship.
Yeah, and you know what? Competitive, TJ. Like, you go back 15 and 16 to Glen, 17, 18, 19 in O'Kelly, Blackrock last year, and Midleton this year. So a couple of different teams. It's not you know, O'Kelly dominating for a while, but
it's not Ballygunner, like, do you know what I mean?
I know it's starting to get around the county, and in general, TJ, going beyond the senior championship, the senior A game was good. The intermediate Premier game, I was at Ballinhassig and Castlelyons yesterday, great game. Last night, Castlemartyr and SARS, great game. And even the junior game on Saturday, Ballygiblin against Drumtariff was an excellent game. So in general, the campaign, you know, it's kind of culminating in a massive weekend. You've got the final in the Premier Intermediate next week, which will be Castlelyons,
Corsi
Rovers. So in general, the championship. And then when you're looking at it as well, say from a Cork perspective, kind of who maybe put themselves into the spotlight. So I thought young Kelly, is it Mikey Kelly, was decent. He might be a bit light. Yeah. He's a lovely little player for Castlemartyr.
He man of the match in the intermediate final earlier on this year as
Kelly,
well. Like, he did,
nice little player, boy. He's nice and busy.
Yeah.
Throws the ball around well. His frees were good last night. Today, Bazang was busy as well. He showed maturity. Do you know what? Maturity when the game isn't going for you, it's grand to go away and get 5 points. Yeah. Get a couple of early scores, you're buzzing. Ball wasn't running for him, but he showed good maturity and played his way into the game. I love that about a forward as well. They can stay calm and get a few scores. So there's a few players, we mentioned them already, like Tommy O'Connell and these guys. So in general, a great championship. It culminated today in a bumper crowd and a great atmosphere.
Brilliant, yeah. And Matthew, we were treated to the underage teams in Cork, they would say the 20s and the
That's
minors parading around
That's
the
right.
as well.
That's
and
right.
Trophies. So you'd have to say, even at schools level, Cork are really coming back to the fore. Those Hattie Cup teams have been very impressive over the last couple of years. So if we now look at maybe the club champions in Cork going on to the Munster club, that hasn't been where maybe Cork people would like it to be in recent times.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
Like, we're going back to 2009 to Newtown, maybe going back even
That's right.
allowing to get a team before Newtown, right? And this is a competition that in the 70s that Cork would have
but
was the big time. So I suppose what will be the expectation or the hope, let's say, for Midleton now?
So I think the standard of club hurling is probably improving, is what I would say, in Cork. I suppose the fact that McKilly won 3 counties, TJ, just the beaten finalists would go out into the Munster campaign. And I think a lot of the teams, when the divisional teams beat him in the final, probably didn't have the heart to go on because they had been beaten. And that probably...
It's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal, and it throws the stats out slightly. I think the fact that Cork got to an All-Ireland final this year, we are there, we're knocking on the door, and, you know, if I was doing anything, if I was Kevin O'Donovan or Mark Sheehan, I'd be saying, right, Limerick are the best team around at the moment. They've built the team around the Keane Lynches, the Sean Finns, right? That era of underage players that went on, lost an All-Ireland final, but went on to the under-21s afterwards. You managed to keep that group of players together. The big job for Cork now is how do we keep the minors and the 220 teams together? How do we harvest the best there to put us in about 3 or 4 years' time that we are the team like Limerick? I'd be hoping that we are well placed now, but I think it's about how do you utilise the assets that we have, and the assets are the players that were good enough to win minor under 20. That's the most important thing for me. I think the club is, I want to say, it's fixed. It's like the format is brilliant now, and the split season is brilliant because you now know your club player is going to, like, you can go to your club player now at the start of the season and say, lads, we're going to be training X, Y and Z because we're going to be playing championship at A, B and C, and you know exactly when you're playing. And I think that is that's huge for a club player, because the club player doesn't get the plaudits that the inter-county fella gets, doesn't get the media attention, all that kind of stuff. But now there's massive media attention around the club players, particularly in Cork, with the live streaming. And I would have to say the examination, we've covered it in the pod a good few times, the amount of paper and pictures and interviews that the club player is getting now is massive. And I think it's very exciting now for a club player in Cork right now.
Yeah, definitely. And Shani, in terms of maybe expectancy, or we say on the ground in Cork after being in Ireland, the youngsters, like, we know how good they are and what they can do. Like, looking at 2022, right, at the season we just had, what would be the general feeling in Cork?
I think there'd be a good buzz around. That's the reality. Cork have won under 20 and a minor championship. They won 2 under 20s, if you want to call it that, because of the whole carry on from last year. I think Cork public are excited by the type of player that's being produced now at underage. It's a mix of power and it's a mix of flair and class. You look at Ben O'Connor from the minors, powerful lad. The Munster Academy and all that are looking at him. 6 foot odd centre back, real Brian Cochran type player. Then you go to a Jack Leahy from Dungorney with the minors, full forward, tasty. Comes out, takes a great ball. Jack Hallan, who's slight but has that, you know, nice kind of Cork dash, that old Leary up in Watergrass Hill. So they can now see it kind of a Cork player maybe coming that, you know, can maybe challenge that physicality that likes of yourselves have, you know. I mean, and that's what I liked about today's club championship, is that aerially there was probably more ball caught in a long time that I've seen. Lehan caught a good few balls, Mark Dooling caught a few balls, Dean Brosnan caught a few balls, and that has been our Achilles heel for a number of years. It goes way back to the Kilkenny time when Kilkenny were dominating, and again this year we struggled under that high ball. So the type of forward and defender that we're now producing from the underage ranks, and back to Mark's point, maybe with Kevin and Donovan, Mark Sheehan, maybe the likes of the new system here now, TJ, is you do an under 16 Cork team and then you get the minors automatically. So then you get time to work with these guys. And Noel Furlong had that opportunity and now is a Cork senior selector. So some of those guys coming through, not only does he know them from a hurling perspective, but possibly from a personality point of view. What do they need to be integrated into a setup where you have old and seasoned campaigners like, I suppose, Alan Cadigan maybe, Owen Cadigan, Patrick Horgan, who've been there for the last 10-15 years. So even mentally, the likes of Furlong will get a feel for that as well. So I think that's to be applauded and commended as well. So I think in general, TJ, obviously the mood is going to be good. No, we're not fools either. We were lacerated in an All-Ireland final. We're not stupid. We know we've an awful lot of work to do. But with the underage stuff and a good club championship that's just happened, I think the feeling will be one of optimism.
Yeah, and Hoggy's had a super club campaign again, like, so just definitely more in
yeah, absolutely. And look, you know, I suppose he was, incorrectly sent off in the county quarter final, was it? And that was rescinded afterwards, and video evidence was used in that situation. So if, like, Patrick has a love for the game that knows no bounds, to be honest with us.
1-2 scores there playing the first, he's touch.
Yeah, but his footwork.
Came across from Simon.
But his footwork, like, you know, like there was even, he got a point from playing the second. Like, he was going to snap it, and he realised that there was no one there, and he took it on for another 2 or 3 steps, and he steadied himself, knocked it over the bar. He's just, the skill levels and the tricks that man has is just phenomenal. Like, he's a joy to watch, to steal a paraphrase, like, you know. But he is a really, really good player, and, you know, everybody will say, like, you know, it'll be a travesty if he doesn't win an All-Ireland medal, but, you know, they're not giving out, like, they're hard on, and, you know, so.
Well, it just shows Kim Allen, people listening, just the warning shots have been fired by the pamphlet. So, you know, you better be ready. We'll move along to the first game today, so the Senior A final. So even just to touch on the grades, like, I was probably doing a small bit of homework on Cork. There's so many clubs in Cork and so many grades. It's just a huge county.
269 clubs, I think.
Twice as much as nearly anybody else. So just a phenomenal county.
So we should be in an All-Ireland final every couple of years, TJ, like it, you know.
But the whole Senior A thing, first of all, it's definitely working, and like great prize for those clubs today to be able to play a final in the park before the main final.
Absolutely. So, like, there's a huge restructure has happened in Cork over the last couple of years. There's 60 hurling teams, and they're from Premier Senior, Senior A, Premier Intermediate, and lower grade Intermediate. So there's 12 in each group. There's a team relegated and a team promoted every year as well. So there's talks at the last grade, the lower Intermediate, that they're going to do away with it. I hope they don't do away with it. I'll be straight up with you, because we have more hurling clubs than football clubs. There's, I think, 4 grades in the football, 4 12s, I'm certain in saying. And so I think, like, the new format is going to be, they're looking at 16 at the bottom. I hope they don't do it. I'd be saying, Kevin, forget it. Leave it at 5 12s, right? Leave it at 5 12s. It's okay. What the footballers want to do, let them run their own championship. But from a hurling point of view, there's enough hurling clubs there to go to 5 12s. That'd be my view.
So, Shani, Páirc O'Neill's versus Kanturk, when I went out to the programme, I suppose from the outside, it looked like it was the Walshes against the Millericks. There was six Walshes on the squad.
5 Millericks,
and 5 Millericks. I know those are all brothers of the Millericks.
The 5 brothers of the Millericks,
Incredible, But great game of hurling, and some unbelievable scores, especially goals scored in this game, and both teams went at it for the word goal.
And kind of similar and dissimilar to the senior game. I mean, Kanturk were coasting in their game. No, the Glen kind of came into the senior game, but were still behind at half time, whereas Páirc O'Neill got themselves 11 in a game that you would have said they were completely after, blown in the first quarter. In actual fact, it was a goal from Colin Walsh just before half time, actually drew it level.
That's right.
So Kanturk ended up chasing the game that they were miles ahead in. But in fairness, just to kind of name check, we had Colin at Minor at 2019. John Constantine was the manager. He got 3 goals today. And still didn't get man of the match. Who picked that?
Clowns, I'd say.
But that was a phenomenal performance. And in fairness, I mean, outside the camp, people mightn't realise that Decky Dalton, who's a Cork senior, and Jermellerick only came on midway through the first half. He's nursing a really serious leg injury. For them even to get to a final was an unbelievable achievement. Now when you're there to win it. But down 2 really, really key players, your free taker and one of your real man-marking defenders into county level was a great testament to the club, in fairness to them.
Yeah, Jared came on there after about 22 minutes. He got right hamstring, very heavily strapped.
Well, come here, you mentioned about the goals, like, what about Killian Broderick's goal? Like, wasn't it some goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jeez, a top right-hand corner, like, it was brilliant, like, We had a great view of that now from our angle there, like,
I was going to touch on first, Dalo, that Decky Dalton, I actually saw him myself, he wasn't playing, and he did have his left leg in a boot, so Marco was right. they say that even a stopped clock is right twice a day. But on this occasion he had information.
The information was right,
Yeah, great. Look, just, I suppose, unfortunate for them that, let's say, Jermellerick, who just got to play with Decky Dalton, to miss out, to get to a Senior A final and to miss it, it's a big hit, like.
But the killer for TJ for Páirc O'Neill's is that last year in the final, John Melrick and Daniel Harrington was missing their centre back. So, and they were beaten by a point by Charleville last year, having led by 11 or 12 at half time. Now there was a hurricane there on the same day. But like to miss Dalton, and Liam O'Driscoll actually was another player that didn't play as well to them. He's a corner forward for them, and he's a good player now, to be fair. But look, it's heartbreaking, there's no doubt about it. But like to lose 2 county finals now in Senior A, in a row, that's tough going for them. Like, and go back to the All Ireland 2020, they were beaten by Tullaroan. Was that after extra time? Was it? Do you know? So like they have been brilliant. Their progress has been massive, in fairness to them now, and they have a massive panel of players and great goodwill in both the Ladies Bridge and area. So I suppose they'll be really gutted tonight now, but they showed great balls to come back into the game, because Kanturk did all the hurling in the first 15 minutes of the game, 1-3-0 score up after 6 minutes, and we're leading by a goal and going into injury time in the first half. So, but look,
just on the Kanturk side, just to name check Larkin and Aidan Walsh, 2 warriors brilliant. Really. In fairness, Larkin has been a super player for Cork down through the years, and Aidan as well, for a fella as well, from time to time, has received some stick from the Cork supporters. always had a great time for him. He got 4 or 5 points from
Five
play.
points,
5 from play.
5 points from
and
play.
Larkhan was all over the place.
Yeah.
I made a match just after the game, man of the match. I said, "You're all right for an old fella, Larkhan." Honestly, he took it in good spirits. He had a fantastic game as well. So, in fairness to the two boys, warriors for their club.
And as we said, a really consistent player for Cork down through the years.
Like TJ, say, we were slagging earlier about Sean O'Donnell and the stats and all that, and some fellas get a 4 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, so there's an inconsistency in their play. Larkhan was always a 7-ish, maybe an 8 out of 10 player. He was the most consistent player I think I've seen that has played for Cork over the last, say, 2 decades. Right half back or midfield, he'll always put in a good shift. He'll always work hard. He'll always chip in with a score. And again today, from minute 1 right up to the end, he was still hunting and harrying for an old fella. He was still hanging in there. So he's been a brilliant servant.
Are you coming back for the Glen next year? Do you know what I mean?
They have a social hurling thing here, in the park.
A lot of wides in the second half, but just had a couple. Like, they definitely were the better team.
I have them down for I think 11 wides in this, and like in fairness, O'Neill's led by 2 points, like in the middle of that second half, like, and they looked like they were going to go on and win it, and the boys kept wide after wide after wide, but they got Liam O'Keefe got a point to settle them, and that from there then they started to get the scores, like. But you know, this will be one for the Know Your Sport. Who's the first Polish fella to win a senior A? Me man in goals, Grantis Buchanasses, okay, filling the boots of Anthony Nash, that's plying his trade down in Limerick now, TJ. So that was a big step forward for that man, and I'd say there'll be a lot of fellas get that question wrong now in the future.
A lot of fellas in Krakow celebrating tonight.
Joe Quaid actually has opened a pub down in Kanturk, and the boys told me that he had the green and white flags for Kanturk out all year.
Good man, Joe. Limerick of Ooh, huh?
There'll be good crack there tomorrow as well, yeah. But no, good win for them. And Littleton winning the senior A, they now apply their trade.
Up in Premier Senior now next year.
They're quite a big, strong team.
They're physically very big, and you know they're lively, and they have a lovely brand of hurling. They have a lot of fellas coming off the shore on a regular basis. Now, they're a football club as well, TJ, and they're in the final, I think, of the football. I think could be next Premier Intermediate next weekend. So I suppose it's all hands on deck, but they're a very, very big team. I thought your man Ryan Walsh, he's a big man. He's plenty pace. He could be somebody that Kieran Kingston might look at, I think. Dan Brown and Liam O'Keefe, they were on development squads way back. Dan was involved with Cork for a couple of years as well. Very consistent, very steady player is what I would say. I thought he played really, really well today, and overall, I can remember Kanturk when they're playing junior hurling, and that's not so long ago now. They're going to be playing Premier Senior next year. Yeah. What they have done over the last decade has been phenomenal. Their rise to success has been brilliant, I would have to say, and and part of that is their development as well. Is that Dalo entered an under-21 Premier 1 team for about a decade. Right. And the likes of the Lock-Ons and the Aidan Walshes, they would have played, and if memory serves me right, I think they beat Bishopstown in an under-21A final one year, but they got to 2 or 3. They got to 2 or 3 under-21A final. So Duhallow as a division was allowed play in the Premier 1 under-21 hurling, and I think that had a big part to play with the promotion of the game down in Duhallow. Yeah,
and Shane, before we leave today, in terms of refereeing, I thought, in fairness, both referees did a great job. They left it go in the main. Yeah. There was no whinging or looking for major reasons. Just get on with it, which was good to see. I agree,
teacher. And I actually went to the Castlemartyr SARS game last night, which is the Intermediate A final. Castlemartyr won by a couple of points. Davy Cops to that from Ballyhale. It was the same type. And do you know what? For a while, the crowd were moaning a bit, and then they just got on with it. And I think accepted it. And both, obviously, teams that were supporting their respective teams kind of got on with it. And the neutral, I think, was delighted to see it. Just let it go. Obviously, the crazy stuff has to be called, but some of the stuff that went into rocks, they left it develop, see what happened. Right. And you referenced it a few times, Mark, in the commentary. Like, sometimes the hand went up, let the advantage ensue, see what happened, and then call it back, which has probably been the best rule change that's come into the game in the last couple of years.
It's a great rule change, Shawnee, but like, I feel for the referees when they're doing league matches with 20 or 30 people at the match, and the abuse they're getting from the sideline from mentors, I think is all wrong. Yeah. And it becomes a free fest then, like, because the referee doesn't want any hassle. He doesn't want any grief going home and stuff like that. So I think mentors need to lay off the referees, to be honest about it. Like, you know, I wouldn't want to be a referee. I don't know, would you like to be referees? Do you know what I mean? But it's a thankless job. It's a tough job for them, like, and just mentors lay off them, like, let the game get on, because the players in the main are playing the ball nearly all the time anyway. Yeah. It's just that the mentors start giving them grief and start turning them against teams, in my view.
To be fair to the senior ref, Mark, like, I've played a bit of junior hurling the last couple of years, and Mark has been doing junior games. What I noticed about him, a bit like Dickie Murphy, you know, they can talk to you. Yeah. What was that for? And they'll say what it was for, and if you give them a bit of bad cheek, they nearly tell you to shut up. Yeah. And you know, I think players prefer that type of referee, in fairness.
Yeah. But a word to Nathan Wall and to Mark Maher. Did you say it was Mark Maher's first senior final?
First senior final.
You have to have him history.
Listen to me.
God, big calls.
Absolutely. And there wasn't a geek, and there was a few, in fairness, the 65, and he went in and he got the decision right. And that's that everybody will look back at it afterwards and say, was the decision correct? It was. And there can be no argument then, like, you know, I think.
Shani, one other thing before we were down pitch side, right, so we could see, I suppose, first time the managers in the Mayor Forna. The Mayor Forna role looks like as if he's going to be confined to the stands into the future. Yeah. I would be for letting him on the sideline with the manager. He's training the team every day. It's difficult for him to banish into the stand on match day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird one, because what I've noticed, TJ, is that the players kind of fear the manager and go to the Mayor Ferna. They might feel that they confide in him. The Mayor Ferna, they might see, even though he might have his fingerprints all over picking the team, but they might know that, and they'll nearly talk to him more than the manager. And you know, some managers are great to manage, but the Mayor Ferna might be actually implementing the game plan. And then the players are looking for some bit of guidance. He's going here, what am I meant to do? And it's great then for the manager to come to Mayor Ferna and say, what do you think? So I think it has taken something, for definitely from that dynamic between players and management. The Mayor Ferna for me has always been seen as the go-to man, so I think it's taken something from the game for sure.
Fair point. Saw a tactics board on the field as well today at one stage, Mark. I'm not sure if you saw it actually.
Yeah, was it? Who was using Kanturk? Was it?
Yeah,
but sure. That must be the Limerick influence up that side. TJ, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mackie, before we move away from all things Cork, and I suppose we probably have to apologise to people today, is really all about the Little All Ireland. I'm not as good to say it as Dalo can say it. Little All Ireland. But the other games that were played yesterday, you might just touch on them for a sec.
Yeah, so we had both Castlemartyr and Lisgool both winning their respective championships. But a big and significant thing about both those teams is that they were both won counties previously this year. So Lisgool won the junior county and Castlemartyr won the lower intermediate. They were both promoted into new grades and they both won the new grades, which is brilliant, I suppose, in some respects. Now, a lot of people will probably say that they were probably, you know, why, how come they made such a leap straight away? I think part of it is they were probably the best prepared teams, because they were preparing for a county final 3 months ago that was unplayed from last year, and so they were up and running, and then they just continued on the run, like so. But like Castlemartyr were convincing winners against SARS last night. SARS would have missed a couple of opportunities for goals, but Castlemartyr goalkeeper saved them. But like they have 4 or 5 players involved. The Lawtons, young Joyce, you know, Mike Kelly that you mentioned earlier on. They were all involved. Joe Stack was involved with McKilly, so they were playing senior hurling as well with McKilly this year. Joyce is a real player. He's the one for the future now. You know, you mentioned Ben O'Connor. It's great to see we have defenders coming as well, like, because we kind of always had forwards. The defence was probably one of the concerns, I would say, TJ, but Joyce and Ben O'Connor are 2 really, really good defenders that are on the way. Liz Gould won a great junior championship earlier on this year, and they have really good players. And John Cronin is probably the most recognised player on that team. He would have won 3 counties with him McKilly. He also would have been the player involved with the tangle with Páirc Uí with him McKilly in the quarter final of the championship this year. So and he was captain of Lisgool as well. So they had a big win against Kilbritton as well now. So and I suppose to touch the junior final was played as well yesterday. Ballygiblin, Ballygiblin involved, and Ronan Dewan, my buddy, and a fellow who's been hugely influential in the county board as well in terms of the structures and the format of the championship. Ronan was coaching Ballygiblin, so a big shout out for Ronan. To
My
be
sister
fair,
lives in Ballygiblin, so yeah, our young fella plays, but he's in the underage scene there. So
Oh, very good.
I know the goings on happening there, and I saw on social media last night. Mark Keane actually struck a brilliant goal for Ballygiblin, which is obviously great to see him in the hurling fraternity.
Yeah, and was Dermot Lynch on the panel with
Dermot Lynch 48, and he was out there. Just to mention, not going away from the Little Ireland now, but the 95 senior champions in the Páirc and the 96 senior champions Avondhu were both presented to the crowd today. But Dermot Lynch, you're right, Johnny, he was cornerback on that Avondhu team in 96, 48 years of age, tagged off yesterday with Ballygiblin and was talking to Ronan earlier on. Didn't play any of the championship matches, but played a good few challenge matches for the team this year. So fair play at 48 years of age to be still playing to some goal.
What was your TJ?
Johnny, you want to dust off that one, lad? Dust off the wooden spoon, you'll be back for the Glen next year.
So guys, I think that completes all things Cork for the weekend just gone. Brilliant weekend. There's one final left, Sean, is that right? The Premier Intermediate
next week. Corsies and
Castlelines. That's a big match now. Castlelines were beaten in the county final last year by Blarney. Colin Spillane broke his finger in the first minute of the game, and the team seemed to didn't handle it well, I would say, but it's great credit to them back in the county final now this year, and they were very, I won't say they were lucky, they had a tight game against Ballinhassig over the weekend, and I'd say Ballinhassig were involved in football. If they weren't involved in football, I think the 5 county finals would have been played in the one weekend. Now that shows that the Cork County Board are doing their business right. Fixtures, they're set in stone, get on with the games, lads, and we'll have it all finished in the one weekend.
Like Sky Sports and Super Sunday.
Super Sunday.
I suppose we're going to have to apologise to the rest of the country because we were all here and all things Cork, but just to touch on a couple of things, I know my old team, St Thomas, has had a brilliant win in the semi-final over their neighbours, Cork. Running out handy with us, I think it was 420 to 8 points in the finish, so great win for them, and now they go on to the final against
next weekend, is it?
So,
okay.
So I think there's 2 finals.
Will you travel up, Teach?
I will, yeah, definitely.
You would have been the 4 in a row?
We'll go and see it. So they'll go for 4 in a row, which is an incredible achievement. So yeah, playing Bridge in the final next week. And the Tipperary final is also on next week, and we just also heard today that Lockmore have the first piece of it sorted, so at least now they're heading into a week with a pep in their step after winning the football. Replay to come against Thurles next week, and someone said about John McGrath.
Goal in injury time, and Marty Morrissey said he's 7th man of the match award in a row. Hurling and football. That's some achievement. 7 man of the match awards.
For a fella that kind of had a funny inter-county season, did he?
No, he wasn't on the tip team.
Really on the team.
Well, we had him on the team, Johnny.
Right.
We didn't have him on the team. We would have picked him. No, not on this occasion. No.
So the Tip County final and Galway finals, I believe, are on next week. And also from the pod, Ken Hogan had a brilliant win today. So
3 in a row.
3 in a row. And again, the reports are this was drama. It was a very tight game, really strong defence on both sides. And Ryan is getting a goal in injury time to win 111 to 12 points.
Oh, what a way to win it! What a way to win it! That's good.
3 in a row for Ryan, which is
yeah,
very
brilliant for Ken now. That's super. Yeah,
so,
well done, Ken.
Shani, we just spoke off here. I see some statements from the GAA last night about the coming season 2022. I think this is when we're going to see the first split season where they're aiming to have hurling and football inter-county championships finished by the end of July. So the hurling final is fixed for the 17th of July, which is quite early.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I suppose, fellas will finish off the season now. You've county finals going on next week. You'll have Munster club stuff. It really is a 12-month season for fellas, isn't it? I mean, they'll finish in July. The club championships, I suppose, are now going to be in November. Does that mean the club finals will come forward another bit? You might have a club final in October. You've got a downtime in November, and most teams then are back at it again in December. It's going to be hard going. And I suppose what it does is, again, just sorry for going back to the whole Cork thing, but when you see fellas like Patrick Horgan at 33, everyone says that the inter-county player, that you get to 29 or 30 and you're nearly washed out because the season is so long for you and there's so much stuff going on in the body and there's so much pressure on. But for a fella at 33 going on 34 that still is fit and as nimble as he is testament to his off-season stuff that he's doing even outside of the training ground. But it's good, TJ. It'll be good. I suppose we're getting away with murder as well at the moment. How many November days do you know are as mild? No, I know it was cold, but are as dry as it was today. The chances are Ireland 9 times out of 10 today would have been a wash with heavy rain, overcast, and a dour kind of affair. So the chances of, if you get a chance to bring it forward another bit, I think the club player will put his hand up and say, yes, at least there's a chance of playing a club final. I presume the dates will change in club scene as well, and the club final could be October. But certainly from an inter-county perspective, I remember going to Munster finals. You remember, I remember going to Munster finals. Searing heat, pressure cooker stuff. We could now have an All-Ireland final in the same type of atmosphere and weather conditions, because there's been loads of All-Ireland finals that have been played. We played one that was piddling over the heavens in the scenery. God almighty, today it never rained as much.
Yeah. But one of the things that was thrown out there was that the split season might cause maybe a little bit of a dent in the inter-county, maybe the PR side of it, that because we're kind of coming back so far that in the months of August, September, that the game of hurling mightn't get the profile that it deserves nationally. But I think the club scene up and down the country in the games has proven that this split season, I think, will definitely work.
100%. I couldn't agree more, TJ. I think like even the names now around the country, that like a Brian Moylan, say from the Glen, that has never played for Cork, but fellas up in Tip and Limerick watching today will see him as a quality half-back. Mark has been saying it all the time, that the profile that the club fella will get going forward will be that little bit more, and they deserve every bit as much credit. I'm above doing our intermediate A team. You've been doing so much in Thomas's and Gary Spillane. We all know exactly what the club fella is putting in, and he deserves as much credit every way, professionally and everything. I need a sales rep, so I don't know how many sales you get from being able to knock and pick up the phone and say, hey, remember you, they mightn't see you're any good, and they kind of recognise your name. So it is great for the club fella to get well-deserved recognition. I can't see it both being a success. I just will be interested. This sounds weird, but just the weather, just to see an All-Ireland final on a searing hot July day, that could be a mouth-watering prospect.
Unbelievable, yeah. It's 30 degrees.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And Mark, the flip side of that would be we could be looking at maybe the first round of the Munster Championship in April.
In April. It's very early, isn't it? Well, it's totally different. But the only thing is that it puts a structure on it, TJ, like, and you know, like, we have to protect the club player, because if you don't have a club player, you won't have your inter-county player. Yeah. It's like the foals and the yearlings and 2-year-olds for Aidan O'Brien, right? Yeah. Unless you have the foals, you won't get into the 2-year-olds.
And it's a great kind of a vision for the club there, that, you know, going out there getting managers and getting coaches and getting your house in order. Like, maybe before you were training in January, Sean, to try and maybe play 2 or 3 games in April, then you were taking a break.
That's right.
There was people going to the States, there was coming back. It was nearly like kind of 2 or 3 seasons inside in the one, whereas now you can really take your time here early doors, maybe get your S&C up and running.
Correct, absolutely, yeah.
You won't be playing champions till August, and people can put a huge structure on it. So that's something to look forward to, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's just the fact that you can give clarity to the players and they know exactly what's going on. That's the only question I'd ever have is, should the club scene be first and then the inter-county? I kind of feel over the year the club gets you up and running, gets it going, and then as the year goes on, you're getting the better and better, and the games are getting better, and the higher standard is played. What I mean by that is that the inter-county is played at the end of the season. And if you're looking for a club player that, if he has a very good season, goes straight into the Cork panel, there's sometimes, I don't know.
The only thing, Mark, is maybe the facilities available at the inter-county level when it comes to the S&C side, the weights programmes and the type of conditioning that can be done. You have a better chance in a shorter period of time in inter-county to get up to the pitch. I think what's made the marketing of all these games, particularly the club scene, the way they've been so marketable because the quality has been decent. And if the club scene comes first, you could have players that are maybe a little bit overweight or maybe not that fit, and as a spectacle, it's not as good. The later it goes on, the inter-county fellas coming back, the club fellas had a chance with league games, and with a longer, maybe drawn out S&C programme, to look fitter and stronger. Whereas, look, we know from being involved in the setups, the available stuff now to the inter-county scene is off the wall. Between statisticians, dietitians, the weights and strength and conditioning. So with a heavy December and January, they're nearly fit by February versus the club player. That's just my viewpoint.
And they've also said, Mark, that the pre-league tournaments are back in play. Like, so for management teams, and maybe especially new management teams, there isn't going to be a huge amount of time here. Like if you take from today to July 17, Sean, isn't that far. So
no, you're getting straight into it, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think Sean makes a valid point that probably a lot of the inter-county players now, there isn't a whole pile of downtime, right? Okay, because certainly when I was playing, I'd say within a month of stopping, I'd be up a stone weight, like, and then you'd put it on very fast, and then it might take you 2 months or maybe 3 months to lose the poundage that you were after putting on, like, you know. So. Says the greyhound over, like it never put on a bit of weight, like, you know. Oh lad, I said, was it 5 you or Sean? And the skin test of the fat
Minus.
test. Yeah. But it's no, the demands on inter-county players now is ferocious, and they have to mind themselves, like.
But Shani touched on it there, I suppose that balance of the successful club player who brings himself literally right the way through, let's say, a Munster club or an Leinster club campaign on towards an Ireland club. It's nearly kind of, that's the other side of it, is running into each other. Like, there's no really much to off here, like Shani's.
No, and like again, like maybe generations, mindsets change and all that. But some of the present Cork players said that I would tic-tac with or know or chat to, I get a sense that they almost don't want too much of a downtime. I think they revel in, like, certainly for me, the weights programme was a pain and hated it. But the modern player seems to love it and embrace it. They embrace the diet, they embrace sort of building the pecs up and getting the guns on, and it doesn't seem to bother them. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just get a sense that they love being toned, they love being in shape. And then they've got the psychology thing, Gary Keegan that was involved with Cork. I know Caroline Curran has done some serious work in Limerick, and they seem to have embraced what it means to be great, what it means to be one of the great players. And if it means it's all year round, then so be it. It's a short career.
I think we would have taken serious Caroline Curran I'm not sure exactly what happened.
I can remember being in a dressing room one night, and John Allen was handing out these sheets, and a lot of it was about the mental thing, like, and I just saying, I'll give it to somebody else, like, do you know what I mean? I'm my own psychologist, like, do you know what I mean? But of course, maybe to get that little bit more, to get over the line, and Ben O'Connell mentioned it in his interview afterwards, that they had a psychologist in, I don't know, I can't, I'm not sure of her name, but it's probably on the programme there. Jennifer Hayes is her name, and he said that they had one meeting with her, and the lads found it excellent, and she was kept on for the rest of the year, and he just made the point that, look, it might have been the difference between winning and losing, and every little bit that they could get, they would use it. So, certainly I'd say a psychologist is a big part of most inter-county setups now and club setups.
Usually when that happens now in a winning team, Shani, right, is that other teams tend to copy it. So there'll be psychologists all over a club team.
There'll be a big budget now in every GM going on, like, with the manager, with the coach, with the selectors and the psychologist.
You told me before you could have said who's training the team for the coming year.
Yeah.
Who's our psychologist? Shani, another thing I want to touch on is I just see some noise there recently about the under-17 grade, and definitely see it maybe in football, and I see Pat McInerney having a pop last night about that he would like to see it returning to 18.
Yeah, I'd kind of endorse it as well, TJ. I think it's hard going for an 18-year-old to really come out and then say, you're basically available for adult hurling, say. I did our intermediate A's this year out in Glen, and personally would have felt that, it would have been better off the lads being classed as minors for under 18, and then when they come out at 19 years of age, you get to work with them. They were kind of lost a little bit, and some of them were nearly too good for junior and maybe just struggling a little bit to make the intermediate A team. And this year, there's no kind of, some of the divisions have decided in Cork not to have an under 20 competition, so some lads end up playing very, very little hurling this year. For me, I think it's better off let him stay. And I know the thinking behind it was that, I think one of the thinkings behind it was that it was holding up competitions.
The adult grades.
When inter-county minor stuff was going on, maybe, and a good 18-year-old. But, like, I don't want to sound disparaging to any club, but if your club is totally dependent on that 18-year-old to get you over the line in club championship, then maybe there are other things at play. Yeah. I think I would prefer to go back, revert to type. They've got lots right. Two things I think they've got wrong, and I know Patrick had a big deal with it. I can't understand why they brought in the yellow ball, and I think they should have kept the minor right up to 18, and I would endorse a change.
Yeah, we take a really good player to come from maybe 17 to get onto his senior team, but you want to be exceptionally good. Like, so.
You would, but I suppose the exceptional fellas do make a teacher, like, I can remember we were playing.
In the inter-county scene there, as you said before, Munster Championship games, under 17 kind of lacks a bit of intensity sometimes. So would you prefer to see that maybe higher? 19?
I think there should be an under 19 grade and an under 21 grade. I think going from 17 to 20 is a 3-year gap. I think that's a big gap in my view, and I think a lot of players are lost from 18 years of age onwards as well, TJ. So for me, if they were bringing the grade down to 17, I think they should have a 19 and a 21. And that kind of goes to your point that if you didn't have an exceptional 18-year-old.
Did you play under 17 and under 19, was it?
18.
We play. No, well,
There's under 18 competition as well.
There is, but the main grades now are 13, 15 and 17.
Yeah.
Do you know, they are the main, but they have competitions at 16 and 18 as well.
Sure, in Limerick, so we played 13, 15, 17, but we also have an under 19 and an under 21 championship.
We don't have an under 19. No.
Okay, we have that anyway. So the under 21 championship is to be finished, and luckily enough, Carrick are going well, so watch this space. We'll be able to have a rattle off Carrick. No pressure on the boys over the team, but they've been a good side so far.
Yeah, but the other point about part of bringing back to 17 and the minor grade was because the leaving cert was another part of that as well. When it was 18, there was a lot of leaving certs were doing exams, and there was a lot of complaints came in from parents that if you were playing minor with your inter-county team, that 18-year-olds were. Now, the funny thing is, kids have kind of changed that themselves because they're nearly 19 years of age when they're coming out of secondary school now, so that actually had fixed itself kind of automatically, like, you know.
There's no fingers broken in Hurling anymore.
It's just a study. It's a study. TJ, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was involved with the minors a couple of years ago, and just 3 months out from championship, bang, they stopped coming training. Like, so what's that? What's happening? They're just gone, not training. That's it. They don't train in Cork anymore for them leaving cert. So
That's why we're not winning all Ireland.
yeah, I know you're looking at me. I know.
Yeah, couple of other things, Matthew, before we finish up. You were on with today, I suppose, the 20 euros to come in from the Cork County Board.
Yes.
And also, I'm not sure if it was you influenced this, but the front.
They were listening, by Joey Blake was listening. He's the filter. He's the filter. Yeah, it toes. Yeah.
They're listening to it, but you have to credit where credit is due at the same time.
Well, they were. Look, I've said it before and I say it again. You know, you're better off to be getting in 10,000 people at a tenner than fucking, half the 5,000 at 20 euros. Yes. That's the reality. It's the same money. 13,500 people paid into the county final this year. It's been the biggest crowd in years. What has contributed? The price. You got 2 quality matches for 20 euros. If they went to 25, they'd have been causing trouble, in my opinion. They priced it right at 20 euros. And the second thing is 1,000 people, frontline workers, which is a great gesture from the county board, I felt. And, you know, those 1,000 frontline workers have partners as well behind the scenes. So they probably came and bought a ticket. So, you know, you can get 2 people in for the cost of a tenner, like, you know, so between them. So I think, you know, where we'll always have a pop off the county board in some respects, if credit where credit is due in this situation now, there were 2 good decisions that were made. And I also thought the 3 winning All-Ireland teams been presented to the crowd, the 95 team, the 96 team, everything went extremely well today. And I'd say the county board must be delighted tonight that the preparation, but I suppose as our old buddy Roy Keane would always say, like, you know, fail to prepare to fail. So Kevin O'Donovan and his team had a job well done today.
Rest of the country, beware.
Come back.
Doing everything right. So on a weekend where all things red, poor Ole got the road. Rachel rode a super winner on
Absolute hard. Favourite for the Cheltenham Gold Cup, I would suspect now.
Red as well, yeah. David Russell rode the winner of the big race in Navan today. So yeah.
I think he's Cork.
It's all East Cork. All East Cork. So huge thank you to everybody in Cork for their hospitality today. From me, best wishes to Dalo. We need him back soon. His shoes definitely didn't fit myself from Marco. We need you back, Dalo. So hopefully we'll be back in the feed soon. Shani, thank you very much.
Cheers,
bye. Marco.
No bother, Deej. Delighted to have you.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.